Well, hello there. I hope everyone's doing well. Just setting up a few final things. How are you all doing? Let me know who's viewing and where you're from. Let's get this chat going. Today we will be covering where I am on the end of days, and also I'll be asking you what questions you have for the Q&A, which will be recorded and uploaded very soon. So be sure to drop those questions in the chat. So we may have a break in the middle of the stream. Just a quick 5-minute one, so everyone can go get some water or just take a break. But I will let you know, obviously, when I plan to do that. Okay, and again, if anyone has any questions, just feel free to drop it in the chat. I won't be answering the questions in this live stream, but I will be having a look and taking the questions down and actually seeing what's what people want to ask. For those watching this afterwards, this will be available in the commentaries playlist. So I've got a few things, quite a lot of updates really. Some are, I won't be able to say due to spoilers. However, I can give you an indication of where I am in the editing process and what really to expect. How soon maybe. So I have a date in mind, a release date for the project. In terms of editing, pretty much I'd say a good 90% is done. I feel quite strongly about that. 90% of footage, that is. I still have to obviously do the credits. I've got to do the opening credits, closing credits for that, which doesn't take long to do. That'll, a few hours. So that will be done under a day. I've got the soundtrack to add, which that can really depend, to be honest. Soundtrack is very, very hit and miss. Sometimes I found soundtracks, and because I'm still looking for soundtrack for the End of Days Part 2. still trying to see what's going to fit. A lot of it that I've got is, it's good, I'm happy with, but I still got to find some of it. And of course, sometimes you don't need soundtrack. Sometimes you're best to leave a scene just empty without any soundtrack and just let the scene speak for itself. Let's say a very specific type of you have to really carefully do that, know when to use soundtrack or when not to use soundtrack, because that can ultimately make and break a scene, give it a different feel. But to choose not to have a soundtrack in a scene can amplify the emotions even more so. Okay, we actually have a question from Thanatos. So Thanatos, you mentioned in my Instagram story what figure was I looking forward to the most. Now, obviously, like I said, I will answer all these questions in the Q&A, which will be recorded tomorrow. Whether I have it uploaded tomorrow on the channel, I'm not sure. It's not going to be a live stream. It's going to be a pre-record. I'll answer those questions. But there are figures, Thano, there are figures that End of Days Part 2 really did. It was difficult. Some of them are the sort of figures you would expect, and some of the figure that you would think, oh, that looks like it would be an easy figure to animate with. They just weren't. And it was always in the big fight sequences. I'm not going to say who for spoilers. If you've obviously seen the screenplay, if you're an actor, or if you've been following the story in the trailers, you'll be able to know that there is a big fight scene coming. Yeah, I thought so. And you know why. But yeah, getting back to the question. I will say one figure that was easy to difficult to animate with, and every time I had him, I kind of dreaded it. And it's who you're looking at right now on the screen, Megatron. He was hard. He was definitely a difficult figure to animate with, mainly because the joints on my copy are very tight. It was one of those where you move it and the arm kind of just flies around like 90 degrees because you have to use so much force to move it, and it just ends up moving the arm more than you wanted it to move. That and the fact that this figure doesn't balance very well, because I have him doing some spins and some twirls, and when he's walking as well. A lot of the shots, and I believe you can't see it on the screen here. No, not this shot. It was a shot very similar to this, but a lot of the shots have had to have an actual metal spanner clamped to his foot to balance him. So when he's doing like acrobatics and twirls and stuff and spins, he's got a spanner on his foot to balance him. That's something that I wouldn't have been able to pull off without that piece of equipment. Steve is right there. He is in between the Viacon on the left and Berserker. So Steve's witnessing all this. But like I said, I'll go into these questions in the Q&A when we record it tomorrow. Now, as I was sort of saying about the soundtrack, you can have scenes where you have soundtrack or not, but it gives it a very different feel, and you have to really be, I don't want to say experienced with it, but you have to know what you're doing when to use a soundtrack and when not to use a soundtrack. I remember in End of Days Part 1, the space battle, I think there was at least 2, maybe 3 different songs in the space scene where everyone was chasing the Allspark, and each one of those gave it a different feel. One gave more an action feel, one gave a really sad feel, others gave it similar feels but just in a different way of expressing it, and it really did change the mood of it entirely. Eventually, I'm pretty happy with the choices that I went with, but it really does bring out different emotions. And I think I even had one where it might have been another scene in End of Days, but I had one or two scenes where they just don't have soundtrack at all, and it really brings that silent dread. But in terms of the update, so the only scene I have left to do is it's scene 10. Scene 10, yeah. And basically scene 10 is broken up with, let me check my folder. Let's see how many sort of sub-scenes scene 10 has, because there's a lot. So it has around 24, 25 sort of sub-scenes within that scene. And each one of those sub-scenes, I say sub-scene, it's not like a full-on break. It doesn't go from one location to another like a different scene. It's different fights going off in the same scene. I believe it's a 33-page fight sequence. Now, a lot of that might seem overwhelming, and it was to film it. I think it took at least a month or so to film the entire sequence, and it's back and forth constant. If you imagine a space battle, how that was lots of characters all fighting for a common goal, and it was back and forth. Sometimes we went back to the same two people fighting multiple times. Other times we saw a one-on-one. Perfect example is Whirl and Darksteel. We sort of see them once, and then Ultra Magnus and Predaking, we go back and forth with them. Sometimes fights will cross over. Perfect example is RC and Ripclaw. We see RC and Ripclaw, and then Breaker Prime comes from his fight that he's just won and helps out RC. Now imagine that big space battle, but on Earth with different characters. So a lot of part 1 was focused in space, part 2 is focused on the Earth. End of Days is a 6-part story, and that really gives a lot of time to flesh out the characters and the overall story. I do have favourite characters in this, and it is hard because there is so many characters. I've tried to give them more character development of their own, some more than others because of the goals of certain characters. Megatron is one that I'm really, really proud of, and I really hope people enjoy what I do with Megatron. Starscream is another one that I'm very proud of crafting, and of course Thanatos. Not sure if he's still in here right now, but he is incredible voice actor, and he voices Starscream. And Starscream is another one that I'm really proud of writing. I do have characters where I think they are quite difficult to write, but I try my best with them. I think Optimus is quite a difficult one to write because he has such he has so many things you can do with him, but at the same time it sort of feels a little bit restricted because you don't want to do a cliche Optimus that's been done 1,000 times before, but you also want to get the character right. You don't want to screw his character over and then completely ruin his character arc and do something wrong in your series. I'll probably touch more upon this in the Q&A tomorrow, but it is a good chance for me to sort of sit on my own and get this out as well, in case we don't touch upon it in the Q&A. But I've seen before that people also find Optimus difficult to write because he is essentially Superman. And what do you do with a character when they're pretty much good at everything, and they are often the fastest, the strongest, the most durable, they're perfect, they never make mistakes? I know obviously in Transformers there's been plenty of times when Optimus has fallen, made mistakes and everything like that, and often that's where his writing becomes the best. And that's what I try and do in my series, and I mentioned it in a previous podcast episode, and the cast turned on me. I said in my previous commentary once that my Optimus wasn't perfect, and everyone was like, "No, boo! Optimus is perfect." I'm like, "Oh, okay." maybe he is perfect. I joke, obviously, but that is one struggle of writing, and it's when you get encounter those characters where it can be a challenge to know what to do with, because either people have done it before or they're just so perfect that you don't want to do it in the wrong way. But in terms of going back to that big fight scene I was talking about, again, imagine everyone on Earth is fighting. There's lots of different characters. I'm not going to say who because I don't want to get in spoiler territory. You'll see that in the trailer. And I released a teaser trailer, I think it was 2-3 months ago, and I'm working on the full trailer. The full trailer I'm aiming to be around 2 to 3 minutes, but obviously until I edit the trailer, I have no clue how long it's going to be. I've got the songs in my head, what I want to put on the trailer. We'll see how that works out. As for the trailer, it's all the footage is pretty much done. I've got just the big Earth battle to finish, and some of those fight sequences that I mentioned will feature in the full trailer. So I can't release a full trailer without those. So I'm currently working through those. Welcome, Michael. Nice for you to join. I appreciate it. And again, let me know where you're all joining from. Tell me what you're looking forward to in End of Days Part 2. Tell me what you enjoyed in End of Days Part 1 if you watched it, or my other installments. Which was your favorite? Are you hoping any characters specifically return? America. Nice, Michael. I've always wanted to visit America. Never had the chance to. Now I'm kind of curious. I know if you've seen the teaser trailer, you might be able to work out what's going on here. But I'm curious from this image, what do you all think is happening in this image? Obviously, Megatron is shooting, obviously. But who do you think he's actually shooting at? Or maybe he's not shooting. Maybe he's doing something else. Maybe someone's shooting him. Maybe it's a big explosion coming his way. Thank you, Michael. That was a very difficult sequence to edit those years back when I did Part 1. I think that entire space battle sequence took 6 months, if I'm not mistaken. I know it was around 5 to 6 months. So it did take a while to actually get that sequence done, but I'm really happy with it. And then again, if anybody has any questions regarding End of Days Part 2, we'll be doing the Q&A tomorrow. Won't be doing it live, we'll be pre-recording it. So if you have any questions, let me know. I will take note of them and who's asked, and we will answer them all in the Q&A. Because I'm also getting joined by several cast members in End of Days Part 2. So if you want to ask those, you don't have to ask me a question about the project. You could ask a question towards the actual cast member, whether it's about their character or what they think of a story, or a question to them about, their time with a voice actor, in general, how they got into voice acting, that sort of thing. What is your question, Michael, with Hot Rod? I'd love to see and make note of that. Again, we'll be answering that in the Q&A tomorrow. I know I'm kind of repeating myself with that, but as new people come into the stream, obviously I want to keep them updated with what's going on and what this stream is about. I'm also really happy with the End of Days Part 2 poster. I'll try and get that up for you guys to have a look. Because one thing I've been wanting to do is know which poster you actually prefer. Like, do you prefer the End of Days Part 1 poster? Or do you prefer the End of Days Part 2? I'll get them both up. With Hot Rod, will he be with the other Autobots? Because I think that ship has something to do with the kidnappers who kidnapped Hound. Very interesting, Michael. I see you've been paying attention to my cinematic universe, and I really appreciate that. I am making note of your question right now, and again, we will answer that in the Q&A tomorrow. When we do answer it, I will say obviously who's asked it, and I will share the exact question. But I really appreciate that. But what I'm going to say is, again, you're paying attention, and I appreciate that. Harrison coming in with whatever happened to Skywarp. Oh yeah, that is an interesting question. I think that's the question of the century. Whatever happened to Skywarp? Bit of a running joke between me and Harrison. Because at this point, we have ideas, but we still don't know ourselves, do we, Harrison? What happened to Skywarp? Just for some context, it's because a few years ago, I never had the Skywarp figure. I always had Starscream and Thundercracker. Never really had a Skywarp, apart from Transformers Armada. I didn't want to use that figure in live action, because I try and stay close to live action Generations at most. I try and stay away from the sort of more cartoony looking figures. I mean, we have the Transformers Prime Viacon in the back there, but they seem to blend in a bit better. Especially with the Generation figures now, they are more detailed. So they fit in more with live action, whereas some more of the cartoony ones don't always fit in. So I never really had a Skywarp in my series. He will feature in the series at some point, mainly prequel sort of stories, but it has been a bit of a running joke of where is he? We get the Seekers as a trio. Where's the third one? Okay, so I'm going to get the End of Days Part 1 and 2 poster up. And again, let me know what you prefer. Do you prefer the Part 1 poster or the Part 2? Just trying to get them up now somewhere. I'm just looking through my many folders. I can't wait to finish this project just to sort out my folders. I mean, that sounds super nerdy and super sad, but if you saw them, if you saw the amount of gigabytes these projects take up. Yeah, we are getting hype. So Michael says he prefers Part 2. Okay, so I've got Part 1 up here. Let me just share it. So this is End of Days. Technically, it's End of Days as a whole. It's not just Part 1. This is technically the actual poster for End of Days as a project itself. Again, we're keeping this spoiler free this stream, so I'm not going to say what's what, but some bits we can already work out because can I zoom in on this bit? If I zoom in here, will it zoom in on the stream? Nope, it doesn't. So I can't zoom in. But if you look to the top right, we have the Nemesis chasing the Xanthium, and behind them we have Darksteel, Ripclaw, and Skystalker, and then we have Thundercracker as well, just above Optimus Prime's head. So that was referencing the space battle, because the Nemesis is chasing the Xanthium, who is trying to launch the Autobot in space, and Thundercracker is giving chase, and we've got the Predacons as well, who's dropping down to the Xanthium from a Nemesis. And then obviously we have the title, we have a beam coming from, looks like a pyramid structure. No, I'm joking. We actually saw that in part 1 of End of Days. It is a structure that the 13 built right at the start of the film, and it's got a beam. Now, I'm not going to touch into that, but it's actually beaming with my logo right in the middle there. But on the right, we've got the Autobots. We've got Optimus, we've got Ironhide, Ratchet, Bumblebee, and Sideswipe. Now, Optimus, Ironhide, and Ratchet all are on Earth. Bee and Sideswipe, they're in space. So you might think, why are they with the others? Why are they with Prime, Ironhide, and Ratchet on Earth? Well, if you looked at the End of Days Part 2 clip that I released, it actually shows the Autobots responding to the Xanthium at the end of Part 1 when it goes to Earth. So that might be a little hint there. Now on the left-hand side of the screen, we have Megatron, Starscream, and Shockwave, the 3 big bad Transformers of the Transformers franchise, of course. And we have Predaking behind Starscream, as loyal as ever. And we've got Cybertron's moon base in the top left corner, which is where Megatron says he came from at the end of part 1. Now, there is something behind Shockwave. Whether you can see what that actually is, I'm not going to give too much away. Gonna have to take more than a gigabyte out, Harrison. Question for the rest of the cast: if anyone in the cast ever dreamed of playing another character, who would they want to play? Very good question, Harrison. Now I'm going to show the poster for part 2. So let me just get that out. I really love the part 2 poster. I feel like as an editor, it's much more crisp, clean, and also it just looks nicer, but I also like what I did with part 1. But let me know what you all think. Do you prefer part 1 or part 2? Because I've never fully gone into, I don't think I've gone into the actual detail of the poster. Taking a moment to present. StreamYard doesn't seem to want to load that up, but that's no problem. I'll just do a workaround. Okay, so hopefully you guys can actually see my screen right now. So, this is the end of Days Part 2 poster. So we've got Megatron right there in the center, literally screaming with his fusion cannon rays glowing, about to fire at you. Very nice of him. We've got Starscream behind, and I love how, you know, you've got one eye here and you've got one eye just behind his axe there. And also Megatron's holding his axe in a reverse grip. It's not like forward, like down here. He's got it backwards, kind of like Ahsoka almost. It fitted better for the shot because he's sort of like going behind towards Starscream. Otherwise, it would have just clouded all this up here. We've got the Dinobots on the right there with the city behind and the clouds. And what I love about this is, you got my logo in the back there as well, but basically this side's space, this side's Earth. You got the buildings, the ground, the Dinobots, the sky, but the sky blends in like towards the stars. Like, try and find the midpoint of these two, because the stars blend into this side and the sky blends in that side. And then you've got the Starscream dies, which both glow. You can't see this one as much because of the Megatron's glowing gun here, but this glow just adds to it more. Obviously we've got the title down here. We've got Hot Rod there, so he's sort of looking down, and we've got this in here. Now, between Hot Rod and Megatron, what is this? Anyone got any clues? Again, I'm not going to go into spoilers. This poster has been released for a while, so I'm sure some people might have worked something out. And then we've got a lot of rock here and vegetation. Now, this is it looks nice with the Dinobots, but it's not really a reference to the Dinobots. It's actually for the Madagascar, because if you see that clip I released, you'll see you know, you'll see where the Autobots actually end up. So that's that. But let me know, what poster do you prefer, part 1 or part 2? Let me know in the comments or the live chat. And again, if you have any questions, we will answer it in the upcoming Q&A tomorrow. This is your chance to really get a live interaction with me and ask sort of questions. And again, I'm going to be noting them down. We'll be answering them all. If you want to ask me a question or someone to the actual cast members, whether it's about the project or their other projects or how they are as a voice actor. Michael asks, will Optimus finally get an upgrade? Interesting question, Michael. Is there any sort of I'm just curious here, right? Is there any reason you asked that? Like, is there something that you've seen in my universe that you think, is Optimus going to get an upgrade, or do you just think, is Optimus, you know, going to get an upgrade since it's a big film? I'm kind of curious. You know, do you think Optimus is due an upgrade? Now, we had a lot of questions going through Instagram. I shared some of them, not all of them, but I am keeping track of things that people have asked. I am grateful for everyone who has asked a question. Michael says, yes, he's due an upgrade. Yeah, it would be cool to see Optimus, because I've only ever used him with the Battle Blades Optimus, and also I've used the Protoform Optimus for his Cybertronian mode. And if you want to be really specific, I've used the Generation Thrilling 30 as his Orion packs, but we've not really seen Orion, not yet. But he is in the background. If you want to know where to look for both of those, for both the Protoform Optimus and Orion packs, it's actually in the collaboration me and Harrison did. It's in the Accursed Gateway, right at the end. And he's actually in that because Orion is, partners with Ariel, and Ariel and Chromia are both friends with Strongarm, and Strongarm is, graduating as a police officer. But also Optimus, I'm not going to say it actually. Yep. See, I really do like to throw Easter eggs in. There's a lot of details in End of Days Part 2 where people are either going to see it and think, wow, that's all a cool attention to detail, or they're just going to miss it. I'm going to address as many, if not all, of these little details as I can in my director's commentary. Now, just a little preview. The director's commentary for End of Days Part 2 is going to be a long one. I have 6 pages of notes to go through. 6 pages. And I'm not talking like bullet point notes. I'm talking like a full 6-page text document. Like, it's huge. I'm going to be talking forever. I may even have to do the commentary in 2 parts. I have a lot to say. But I'm very grateful for everyone supporting me and waiting and being patient while I worked on End of Days Part 2. I took a big break between Part 1 and Part 2 to work on Expanded Universe stories. We're not doing the Q&A live tomorrow purely because... So Harrison, you will be in the Q&A with us. For anyone who's here, Harrison is in the Q&A, so if you have any questions for Harrison, let us know, and I'll note it down now. We are not going to be discussing the Q&A live, but the actual commentary for End of Days Part 2, I might do live. I don't know whether it's something I will do with others or on my own, or whether it's something where I talk on my own, get all my points out, and then do another commentary with multiple people. That's something I would probably definitely look at and love to hear other people's opinions. And it's mainly because I have so much to talk about. I think it would be best if I got it out, and then anything that people want to actually talk to me about, they can ask questions on specifically, or do a separate live stream addressing those questions. But yeah, as for the commentary for End of Days Part 2, I might do it live. That's a good shout. But the Q&A tomorrow is going to be recorded just in case we accidentally talk about spoilers that, then we don't, trip up and spoil it for the audience. I can edit it out that way. If we don't talk about any spoilers, if we manage to get through our Q&A tomorrow without spoiling anything, then I'll just, upload the video as it is. But as it stands, it'll be pre-recorded tomorrow. Because the thing is, let me check, hang on. It's going to be 5 people, including myself, in the Q&A. So I've almost tripped up in this live stream at least about 5 times. I very nearly said stuff, and I've had to stop myself. Like slip of the tongue stuff. Some of it would have been minor spoilers, but that's the thing. When you're live and you just start talking and rambling, it can just come out. We've all seen Tom Holland with Spider-Man, how easily he does it. I'm trying not to be Tom Holland right now. I'm trying not to be. Although I would like to be Spider-Man. But yeah, that's purely the reason why I pre-record stuff sometimes. Michael says, may not be related to the story. That's completely fine. Again, this is a Q&A tomorrow for, even if it's not to the project, it could be towards any of us. By OC, I guess you mean original character. Yes, there's a couple, but They haven't starred yet. So I do, yes. There's one that I made myself, and then there's one I might be making with another person. But that they've not featured as of yet. Harrison, yeah, you play Thundercracker, Shockwave, Skid, Mudflap, 300 characters later, and Grimlock. Yeah, how is it? You voice so many characters that when people or even yourself asks me to tell you who you voice, my mind goes blank. I'm like, okay, you voice Thundercracker, Shockwave, Skid, Mudflap, Drift, and then I just forget the rest. I'm like, yeah. Even though the big characters like Berserker, Lockdown, Grimlock, and you voice a couple of others, and I'm just like, you voice so many, and obviously when you have other cast members who have loads of other characters as well, you're like, oh, what? Interesting fact, actually, the person who voices the most characters in the series is actually me, but I voice one-off characters. Like the biggest roles I have is the Optimus, Starcade, and those are sort of like the biggest roles, and Trigger Happy. Those are sort of the biggest roles I have. Other than that, I voice like just random one, like a Viacom screaming, or a Cybertronian news reporter, or just someone in the background, or like a one-off character. Swerve was a good one to voice as well. I did enjoy Swerve, voicing Swerve of the Autobot Alliance. I did voice him, and I rather enjoyed it. Although he got stranded, so who knows what happened to him. If you want to know what happened to Swerve, watch We Are Here, We Are Waiting, and then get more confused on what happened to Swerve. Those two are probably two of my favourite stop motions I've made. Yes, we need OCs, Harrison. We need them. Where are the OCs? Yeah, I think you do, Harrison. You and Eli, I think you both have the most recurring. Because don't forget, you star in Dark Science, which is one of my earlier ones. Then you starred in Bounty Hunter. Then you starred in both the End of Days. You starred in We Are Here, We Are Waiting. You starred in both our collaborations. Eli's done a lot. He's done most of the Starscreams. So I had another actor for Starscream originally. So yeah, most of the Starscream appearances Eli voices. I bet you can. But yeah, any questions for Harrison? Drop them in the chat. We'll make a note of them. Or Harrison, if you have any questions for the other cast members, I know you probably will ask them in a moment. Or if you have any questions for me, or just about the project in general, let me know. Now, I have a question for those who are specifically in this live stream. Just a little thank you for joining so far. How would you like to see a screenshot of End of Days Part 2? I'm not going to say what it is. But would you rather it be a surprise, or would you want me to show you? Because it is a fully finished screenshot. What about everyone else? Does everyone else want the screenshot? Harrison wants it. What's Wheeljack cooking up for science? I mean, what's he never cooking up for science, honestly? Who else wants to see it? Because this is something I've not shown anyone. And this sequence was a little bit difficult to edit, but I'm pretty proud of how it turned out. So what we're going to do is I'm going to show you a screenshot if you want to see it after this commercial break. So we're going to take just a couple of minutes out. I'm going to drop this comment right here. So when we get back, if you'd like to see a screenshot, let me know in the chat and I will address that in a few moments. Be right back. And we are back. Get some other music going. Let's see what. I haven't listened to any of these, so I have no clue what any of them like. Let's go with Into Space. Hopefully it's not too loud. So, Michael asks, with Ultra Magnus, who might be his successor? Again, you're paying attention, Michael. So, with Magnus, I am going to follow up on that storyline. I will say this, it won't be for a while. I like to set up story arcs quite soon, like as early as possible, so it carries on. There's some story arcs in End of Days that are going to get I don't want to say resolved, but a lot gets added to it. Some of it comes full circle, and some of it sort of some of it comes full circle, and some of it sort of like stays open whilst other plot points, conclude. That's all I'll say. But there are some expanded universes from a little while ago, which I set up a while ago, and they will be featured in End of Days. So I do like to plot those story arcs early on. So with Ultra Magnus, that was only plotted last year, because I wanted to get a lot of my cinematic universe done, and then I can focus on the main story. But I will be picking up on that storyline. And I hope people like what I do with that, because I don't think people are going to expect it. And we are back. We now return to the Transformers. So, guys, do you want to see an exclusive preview just on this stream? Not going to be released publicly. Well, the stream will be released publicly, but for those watching it afterwards as well. But this photo won't be shown anywhere else, like by me. Michael says, yeah, Harrison says, okay, we've gained some interest. Let me get up. Hopefully StreamYard actually works this time. So, let's share it if it loads. There we go. What do you guys think to that? Let me know your thoughts. Released just for you guys. Michael likes it. Michael said it looks good. Thank you. Oh, yes. I like that. Thank you. Yes. So what you're seeing here is just a screenshot of I'll sort of give some context to how this shot works. So there is the soldiers with the background on one plane. And when I say a plane, or like, it basically means a layer. So when you say a layer, think of it as layers stacked on top of each other, like a different photo, a different video almost. So we've got the soldiers with all the set, and we've got Blackout as his own little layer. And behind, you can't see it, but above the wall, and you can sort of see it at the side of the wall with a bit of blue. Thank you, Harrison. Where that blue was, there was a green screen. So Blackout was green screened on. And because his propellers are going pretty quick, they're sort of like blurred out a bit. You can sort of see them, you can sort of not, they're sort of fading in and out. The shots are, I had to film basically 2 shots, one of the soldiers, one of Blackout, and they both pan down. So they're looking up and then they both pan down, and I had to match them both as close as I could, where we were looking up at Blackout, and then as he comes down to the surface, the camera goes down. I'm the same for the soldiers. We were looking up and then we go down. And the green screen behind the wall allowed me to show you the sky, because above Blackout, above the wall, the building, you can see a sky. And a little detail is you can sort of see the sky move a bit with the clouds. That's a detail I always like to put in. In the left there, where the blue is, that's also some sky, because it's sort of like on like a bit of a raised, it's quite elevated where they are. So you can see the sky, and there's like a little black line. That's actually a fence. It's blurred out, but it's a security fence, quite a high security fence into a military base. And then we've got other layers. So we've got leaves on the bottom here, just where the soldiers' legs are. We've got some leaves because as Blackout's coming to the ground, a lot of stuff is flying around everywhere. We've got dust. We've got the muzzle flashes. We've got the sparks. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with that shot. Riley is a boy, Harrison. And no, the dogs aren't really the problem. It's the cats that are the problem. So I had it where I was filming training exercises, which was an Expanded Universe some years back. I don't feel 2 minutes since I did that. But it was when we first got my cat called Sooty, and he was still a kitten. And after I'd filmed it, he roamed around in the set, and I just pretty much let him, because I'm finished by then. And then which one was it? I was filming. I don't know if it was End of Days or whether it was another Expanded Universe, but I was filming something else. And Oscar, my other cat, he's the youngest. I think I remember him jumping on the set and just knocking figures over, and I'm like, no. Yeah, I think I told you about that at TF Nation. Who do you think is going to win in this Catzilla? Yeah, pretty much. But who do you think is going to win in this shot? Do you think Blackout's going to win or the soldiers? Drop that down in the chat who you think is going to win. So you think Blackout's gonna win? And Harrison? I mean, I don't see Blackout winning against 3 humans firing guns the size of Blackout's windscreen. I'm joking. Yeah, I would. If I saw this, I would have my bets on Blackout as well. Oh yeah. I'm pretty happy with how this whole sequence, and also, if you want to see Blackout in action, then you can see on my channel right now there's a clip. But we'll try and show it actually. Let me try. I'm trying to show you in full glory if I can. I don't want to accidentally show the wrong scene. Transformers fan 5000. Casper is Catzilla. Oh, Catzilla definitely. Is the cat sized or is it Godzilla sized? Yep. And that's the thing with Blackout. He's overpowered. I did want to do a Transformers movie lore video on why Blackout didn't use all his abilities in Mission City. But I wanted to do an in-depth video. The short answer, because there is actually a book that basically kind of mentions why. So I want to do a lot of TF lore videos again, but the short answer, just for those of you here while I'm on this topic, is Blackout didn't want to do his big EMP blast because he could flatten buildings, and if he did that, not only would the Allspark be like, where's it gone? I mean, try digging out the Allspark, which is tiny, amongst the rubble of buildings and streets worth of just collateral damage. I mean, yeah, if he did that, the Autobots would be dead, probably. Well, not dead, but they'd be very injured, but also they would be finding a needle in a haystack. Now, while Megatron did cross the entire galaxy trying to find it, which was harder, they could have done that. It was also a risk to themselves. If Blackout did his big blast and everything, it would have brought the buildings down on top of himself, Brawl, Megatron. So, it could have really backfired. So that's why Blackout didn't use it. But I do want to make a movie lore video addressing, going into actual depth, because there is evidence of it. And when I say the movie lore, I don't mean like theorizing. I mean like actually backing up with official Transformers media. Cat size, yeah. If I'd still say Catzilla. Because I think he would overpower the cast with his cuteness. Your cat could guest star in that EU. It would be like those memes where it's like a cat on set and it's just like a massive cat. The cat versus Transformers. Let me try and share this. So, as I was mentioning, if you want to see Blackout, here's what's on my channel. So hopefully you can all see this. So this is what's on my channel right now. If it ever works. So, yeah. Obviously, I'm going to cover that fight in my commentary, but that's just one little thing. Of course, then we have this. So let me know, do you think this is going to happen before that fight sequence, or do you think it's going to happen afterwards? Do you think Wheeljack's going to come in and fight Blackout, or do you think Blackout's going to be fighting Wheeljack before this happens? And again, if anyone has any questions for the cast or me, please feel free to ask, and we will answer them in the Q&A tomorrow. And one thing I did actually mention, I was going to talk about, which kind of went from my mind as I was going through this stream, is the release date. So I'm not going to be announcing the release date. However, it will be revealed in the trailer, which again, I need to finish some other footage for first, and then I'll release it, and it'll have the release date on it. I did plan to release it on a certain date. However, Harrison, you'll know which date because I told some of the cast. There's some dates clashing that I'm gonna have to re-look at the actual date that I release a film. I think I'm either gonna do it a week after my initial release date that I planned, or I'll do it a week before. I'll speak to the cast about that, but let me sort of give you an indication of when you can expect to see End of Days Part 2, providing all goes well, providing the editing gets done, and providing the soundtrack is all complete. It will be around July time, so around a month from now, maybe. Because although I've not got too much to edit, there's a fight sequence that I've kind of been holding off on doing because I wanted to do it last. If you guys have any ideas who might be fighting each other, it's the first time they've clashed in my universe in a while. So, and also it's not just, I'm not going to say who it is, but you can comment your thoughts who you think it will be based on what I'm telling you. They've not fought each other in a while, and they're coming back, but there's also kind of like a mix in the fight where there may be a third party sort of trying to, I don't want to say control the fight, he's trying to definitely make the fight more dominant, whereas the other characters kind of like, you know, trying not to fight as hard. But it's definitely a fight I'm looking forward to editing. But yeah, it's got another character mixed up in that fight where they sort of interfere a little bit in the fight. But yeah, I'm hoping to get it done in the next month. We'll see where we go with that. Michael asks, so in my universe, why did the Decepticons rise up? Was it because the Autobots were corrupt? So this is something that would be in my expanded universe. It's going to be in another story called Frenemies and the Decepticons. So those are the two big origin stories of my universe. I'm not going to get to those for a good while. They are pretty hefty stories. I'm sort of writing them on and off, writing them and then coming back to them. However, just to sort of, I don't want to be, answering this question in a year's time when it does come out, but long story short, it is because of corruption, and in a way, it's kind of like my own version. I wrote all this way before like Transformers 1, so none of TF1 inspired me at all. I came up with these ideas and wrote them years ago, but basically it was because of corruption. And if you think of the Autobots sort of starting out as kind of like the dominant species, or not species, but like the dominant faction on the planet. Decepticons don't really exist, and the Autobots are basically the government. So the Autobot logo is the symbol for the government, and there's government corruption and things like that. As time goes on, with the corruption, obviously we get the rise of the Decepticons, which is what the expanded universe called the Decepticons is about. It's about the uprising. with that, without giving sort of spoilers away of what happens, it's kind of like the Decepticons see the Autobots as bad. Like, in my universe, I don't try and do it good and bad. Like, the Autobots are the good, is Decepticons are the bad. Is yes, the Decepticons do some atrocious things, but if you look at history, the Autobots have done some pretty bad things. And the way the Decepticon, especially Megatron, sees this, which might be a good indicator when you watch End of Days Part 2 for you to keep in mind, is the way the Decepticon and Megatron sees this is when they see the Autobot logo, they see oppression. They see the government. You know, they're a small fraction of the government that's sort of splintered off, and they still cling to those values of morality and noble, but they don't believe that they believe in them. They just think they're sort of corrupt and just as bad as the old government, if that makes sense. Whereas the Decepticons, for them, obviously they think they are good. But the way the Autobots, basically they adopt the Autobot logo to try and reform things, basically. So where Optimus and the Autobots wear the Autobot logo as a badge of pride, they sort of adopt it in a sense of, we can turn what was corrupt into something hopeful and inspirational. We can really turn this symbol of bad intent and corruption, and we can really show the world that we can change something like that into something hopeful. But the Decepticons don't see it that way. They just see you're taking the badge of all these horrible deeds and you're refusing to let that badge go. So that's kind of like how, it's not the reason why things happen because of badges, but it is because of corruption. And that's why you get the Decepticons, because it's, you know, they're rising up against that, and they sort of see the Autobots as like modern day government almost. But yeah, that won't be out for a while. And one thing I do want to clarify as well, just to reiterate, for when I, you know, if I watch this stream back one day, which I will do, but for other people as well. Again, I wrote all this way before TF1, so any similarities are just purely coincidental. Sorry, I thought I had a delivery then. I'm currently waiting on Studio Series Q, so I'm just checking when they're arriving. I think it's tomorrow. But yeah, a lot of it I had, you know, in my head for years. I've just not released them because I've been working on either other Expanded Universes or End of Days. End of Days is a big thing I need to get done. However, I'm hoping in the next year or two things will change. Currently going through quite a bit of stuff that, you know, for the better, and I'm really sort of trying to change the way I work things. So a lot of the content I'm hoping will be coming out much sooner. The way I work now is good, but you know, I don't always have a lot of time sometimes. Whereas in, you know, a year's time, I'm hoping I'm in a bit of a different place, and I can really focus on my channel, you know, a lot more hours. So hopefully I get to those Expanded Universes sooner. But I mean, the Decepticons and the Frenemies, they're both incredibly big projects. They're almost as big as End of Days. In fact, if you add Frenemies and the Decepticons together, they are probably bigger than End of Days, if not as big. But there's stuff in Frenemies that I had to go back and completely, not rewrite, but there was one idea. I'm not going to say what it is. And if any idea is ever made similar, it's just, again, purely coincidental. I'm going to put that down now. Just so no one knows that no one thinks I've, you know, copied another idea or been inspired. This is kind of like my own thing that I've come up with. Very few people know about this. But this little idea I thought of completely changed the way Frenemies progressed and was inspired. The story was similar, but the way characters were written and their motives, this one changed the complete storytelling for the better. And that's why I take a lot of time to write things sometimes, and I'm on and off with it, because it's better to take your time and rewrite it as many times as you need to and get it right, rather than writing it, putting it out there, and then thinking, oh, I could have actually added that character in, or I could have taken that character out, or I could have added this scene in, or etc, etc, etc. Things could change. So that is one story that I will take as long as it needs to take. But I hope the explanation of the Decepticons Rising was okay. I know that was a very, very long speech. But yeah, I'm going to be wrapping this stream up very shortly. Probably in the next 5 minutes. So if you have any last minute questions for the Q&A tomorrow, be sure to let me know in the comments. I will be looking for the full, I don't want to say theatrical trailer, but like that sort of style trailer. I'll be releasing that. I'm hoping within the next 2 weeks. We'll see. We'll see how quick I can get the footage done that I need to get done. It really depends on that. Because there's some scenes that I've edited in End of Days Part 2, and I've edited them and I'm like, wow, that was way easier than I thought it would be. And then there's other scenes that I thought, this is gonna be like, I'm gonna have this edited within an hour, and I'm there like 10 hours later still on the same scene. I'm doing one at the moment that I thought would be easy, and it's just like, oh, just finish this scene. It's taking ages. And it really depends on the feel of the scene. Like sometimes certain scenes feel longer because they may be more dialogue heavy, or they may be, just have lots of other effects that just slow the programs, and sometimes the scene can really feel a lot slower in editing. Whereas some scenes, like if you're doing a really interesting scene, not to say the others aren't interesting, but the way certain things happen, you obviously have your favorite scenes as a director and a writer. And when I'm working on them, seeing them like, yes. And then before I know it, I spent like 5 hours editing, and I'm like, oh dear, I should probably take a break. And then I'm back at it the next day, and they just go so quickly. So yeah, some scenes take ages to do and some don't. I think the hardest scene so far was, let me just have a look at just before I wrap up. Okay, so this probably wasn't the hardest, but this was definitely tedious. There's a fight scene. I'm not going to say who it's against. I'm going to name one character, Strafe. Now, Strafe fights someone, and that was a scene I thought was going to be easy. And my goodness, it was, that was challenging. That was so hard. Even my PC was like, I can't handle this. It was a difficult fight. And there were certain shots in it what were like the money shots. And my computer was just like, error. Evacuate, hit film, the editor I use. It was a tough run to edit that scene. I'm also completely redoing the way I do the sound design in my film to a lot of my previous, stop motion installments. So please let me know when you watch the film what you think of the sound design, what you think of the robot movements, when they walk, how they move and fight and punch, or their vehicle mode sounds, or even things down to like the environment and the muzzle flashes and the ambience. Everything is chosen intentionally, and I really try and be careful and selective with what I use. So, let me know how you think the sound design works in the end film. So I'm sorry, I can't speak. I've been talking too long. So when will Velocitron enter the war? Interesting you say that. So I've kind of tried to keep Velocitron separate. I'm not going to give too much away with that. But Velocitron, while it takes place in my universe, it's kind of like its own little thing. I don't plan to do what Transformers Cybertron did, where all the planets sort of unite with the Omega Lock. But I do like the idea of visiting other planets with Transformers on them. I did want to do a jungle planet forest sort of thing, but I haven't got any ideas on that yet. But there's two basically Velocitron. I've got a trilogy of them. So I've got one out at the moment, so I've got two more to do. I won't be doing them for a little while, but we will return to Velocitron. But I kind of wanted that as its own little, I don't want to say mini-series or spin-off. It's part of the cinematic universe. But I kind of like that as its own little separate thing where if you don't want the action, you can sort of go there and see the racing. But yeah, any last questions before I log off? Again, any questions about the film itself or the cast, their experience with the project, their characters? My voice went a bit higher than I hiccuped. Or any questions from me or anything else? And I will answer them in the not live Q&A, the pre-recorded Q&A tomorrow. Providing that I don't have to edit any of it, hopefully none of the cast or me go into spoilers. Hopefully we don't get slip of the tongue like I have about 10 times this stream. If it is, if we don't need to edit it, then the Q&A will get released tomorrow. Okay, Michael, what do you need help with? I don't know if you heard my dog sneezing in the background there. Michael says, I'm thinking, should I do corrupt Autobots and make the bots not corrupt? This is entirely, I always say, it's your own decision what you want to do. What tells you, sorry, you can probably hear my dog drinking in the background, I apologize. But what sort of do you feel in your heart is the right thing to do for the story? But also, what gives it more motives? What drive the characters? If you make them corrupt, will it change the story? Will it change how the characters uprise? If they're not corrupt, how will it change it? Or you could do a mix of both, where it's kind of like a divided split. Kind of like where you have half of the Autobots corrupt and half not, and it kind of like Batman, how the police officers in that film, half of them are corrupt, half of them aren't. You don't know which police officers to trust, you don't know which ones to not trust. So I say consider your options, because you are the creator of your universe, you're the one who knows it best. Consider your options. How does it affect the characters? How do you do the story? What sort of story do you want to tell is the big thing. Is it a mature one? Is it more light-hearted? A bit of both? And how complicated do you want the story to be? Do you want it to be easy to understand, or do you really want to go into the psychology of it and make it like quite complex that more mature fans would understand? Those are my advice, and weigh them up, see what works well. And you could also write both. Now, I don't mean write a full screenplay of both, but you could write on a sheet of paper what will happen in each scenario. Have a look at what pointers are the same. Whichever you choose, corrupt or not, there's probably events or characters that might stay the same. So what stays the same and what changes? What do you like in both? So really weigh it up like that. That's my advice. And you say you want it dark. Look at films for inspiration, like Batman Begins, or the Batman Arkham games, or any sort of story like that where you've got police corruption or government corruption. The IDW comics are a good start as well, so I'd say start there. But I'm going to end the stream now. I want to thank everyone for joining. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you watch the Q&A tomorrow, if it's uploaded tomorrow, that is. And if anyone who is joining the Q&A, any of the cast are in this right now or watching it after, thank you for that. And again, weigh those options up, see what works either way. Again, your universe best, because I won't be able to sit here and see your vision. If I say do this or do that, it can really change the way you go about your series. Keep your series at heart, keep it what you want, but also weigh up those options that I mentioned, and it'll really give you maybe an understanding of which one do I go for. You could even do a 2 stories splintered timeline where one is corrupt and one isn't. Maybe one could filter to the normal universe and one could filter into a Shattered Glass universe, something like that. I do have a video on my channel about how to write a story. I think it's a pretty good video, and I basically talk about the story and all the plot points and the characters. It's on my channel. Let me have a look just before I go. This is a video that I did that might help you out. So have a look at that, and hopefully that is of use. So I'm going to leave the stream now. Thank you again to everyone. I do have a stream referral link that I'm posting in the chat right now, if you guys would like to do that. Other than that, I want to thank you all for joining. Please comment any questions you have after this stream, providing obviously it's before the Q&A, but any other comments, any general thoughts, post it in the comments, and I will see you on the next live stream. Thank you everyone so much, and enjoy the trailer when it's out.